I really love being outdoors, being in the nature and have this silent place with this slow kind of living where you have time to reflect and think. I want to take on these challenges and feel the accomplishment on the other side. To show myself what I'm capable of doing is the best feeling ever.
Today's guest is Karen Malena Kyllesø. She's a Norwegian adventurer and polar explorer who's redefined what's possible at a young age. Born in 2003 in Årdal, Rogaland, Karen grew up with nature as a playground, skiing and hunting alongside her family. And at just 14, she became the youngest woman to ski across Greenland, braving storms and setting a world record. But she didn't stop there. In January 2025, at only 21, Karen skied solo to the South Pole, becoming the youngest person ever to conquer that grueling 1,133-kilometer journey alone. She did this all the while pulling 2 sleds weighing nearly twice her own body weight. And as a self-described Duracell bunny, her relentless drive and meticulous preparation have earned her praise from legends like Børge Ausland. Beyond her feats, Karen's a thinker, applying lessons from the wild to everyday challenges. She's a true testament that you can turn ambition into action, proving that with the right mindset, anyone can push their limits. And now, dear friends, my conversation with Karen Malena Kyllesø. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Let's take it from the start. When did you get introduced to outdoor living, and how did it evolve for you over the years?
We've always been a lot outdoors together with my parents. So I grew up in a small, not even a town, small village in Hjelmeland in Ryfylke, not too far from Stavanger. And we spent a lot of time outdoors, hunting and fishing and just enjoying fresh air. And just became more and more into it and went on my own experiences.
And were your parents also into outdoor living? Did you do experiences together or trips together in your early childhood?
Yes, my father is very into the hunting and fishing part of the outdoor life, and my mother is more into the training and running in the mountains and skiing during the winters. So it was a combination between a lot of working out actually, and also going for tent or camping trips. For a few days.
I think I've heard also that you started hunting yourself quite early on, and it's something you enjoy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I first started just joining my dad's and his hunting group, and I was always walking with the dog and letting the dog out to find the game. But after a while, or after I got my hunter license, I also started hunting myself.
At what age did you get your hunting license?
14.
Oh, 14.
So
wow,
as
that's
early
quite
as possible.
Early. Yeah. That's the lower limit. Or
yes,
okay.
In Norway it is.
Do you go hunting quite often normally at this stage?
Yeah, or I would go more often if I could, but a few times a year. Often 3 or 4 times during the fall and 1 time during the winter. So hunting on skis, I think that's fun.
Oh, really? On skis? Yeah.
Yes.
And what was your sort of favorite game to hunt?
I like the birds, the smaller ones. Yeah.
All right. So using shotgun then, or?
Yeah, shotgun or rifle in the winter for longer distance shooting.
When did this interest for outdoor living and hunting? When did you realize that this is something that you want to sort of pursue full time and to make into sort of a living?
That was also quite early. I think regardless of these trips always being together with my parents, I often felt like I was on my own small adventures and exploring a bit by myself, and went a bit further out and took a night alone, a bit away from my parents, and then I took 2 nights alone. So it just built it up, and then when I was 11 years old, I were allowed to get Instagram. It was a very new thing then, so my parents didn't know too much about it, but they said if I was going to get it, I had to only post outdoor content. And then I started posting outdoor content, and I came in contact with other content creators. in the same kind of area. And I got inspired by others to go on different adventures, and then I went on my own and also posted them. And quite early I found that this was maybe a way that I would like to go.
Did you travel across various places in Norway, or also to Sweden and Finland and other nearby countries as well? Or how did sort of your trips evolve?
In the start, it was mostly in Norway and here in Rogaland. But when I was 14, I got the bit bigger dream that I've had before. So I wanted to cross Greenland on skis. And at first, it was quite difficult finding someone that was able and also willing to take me. Because it's a lot of responsibility for them to take a child instead of a grown-up. So I searched for a long time, and then I came to a guiding company called Ausland Explorers that said if I joined them on a guided trip across Finnmarksvidda, and that went okay, I could maybe join them across Greenland as well.
For how long was that trip across Finnmarksvidda?
It was 5 days, about 90 kilometers, sleeping in tents, and it was my first time sleeping in temperatures as low as 35 negative degrees.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing trip. I saw the Northern Lights for the first time in my life, and I just really fell in love with the winter expeditions.
Wow, I can imagine. How old were you at this stage?
I was 14.
Wow. I'm also curious, what inspired you to start thinking about Greenland? Was there some person, some mentor, maybe some book? I mean, how did that sort of get into your mind?
There was quite a few Norwegian explorers that was very exposed on TV when I was a child. Cecilie Skog and Lars Monsen. And I was really inspired by them and watched all there was to see, and also started reading books. And then there was this guy called Alexander Gamme. He's also skied to the South Pole. But in this TV series, he brought 4 13-year-olds to the North Pole.
Wow, that's quite extreme.
Yeah. They skied, or they prepared and trained for it quite some time, and then they skied the last degree to the North Pole. And then I just got to see that it was possible to do in that age. And then a bit later on, there came a TV series with Cecilie Skog bringing a Norwegian comedian, Truls Svendsen, across Greenland. And then I thought if he could do it, I could maybe as well.
That's great. And I think it's so important to be inspired in that particular way through TV series, through sort of people who have done similar things in the past, through books. So I also personally, I read a lot of biographies to get that sort of spark of inspiration. It's wonderful. Maybe we can sort of segue into goals and ambitions, and could you maybe talk to the significance for you about goal setting for yourself, having dreams and setting goals, tap into that ambition or this inner drive?
Yeah, I think I've always been very dedicated to my goals and never been afraid to dream big. And I think it's really important to have a goal like that because it gives meaning to what you do. And during my time in high school and even before that, I think the goals were really important to me, to have something that made meaning.
Yeah.
Made my life meaningful.
Something bigger than yourself.
Yeah. And made the training that I did meaningful.
Yeah. I think that's an important point. Just working out for the sake of working out versus you have this big, hairy goal way in the future that you're sort of taking small steps every day towards that goal.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes every day and all the little efforts you make every day sort of meaningful. I can imagine that, and I can relate to that. With some of your past expeditions in mind, both across Greenland and going to the South Pole, how do you think about goal setting? Do you sort of write it down in a diary, or do you have like a structure for it that you sort of break it down from one big goal to smaller goals? Or how do you think about it?
I think it's very important with the smaller goals as well. That is more easy to reach, and that makes the journey fun. But I actually just found my diary from when I was 14, or right before I went to Greenland, and there I have drawn all the dreams that I had. So I've drawn the mountains of Patagonia, and I've drawn the pole with the ball on the South Pole. I've drawn Greenland and a lot of things that I've done now, which is really fun to look back at. But I think it's important to also dare to tell your goals out loud, because then you kind of commit to them a bit more than if you just keep them to yourself. And it's easier to plan for and prepare for, and to try to gain the experience that you need to get there.
Yeah, and I can imagine also when you voice them out to someone, you get more accountable to actually doing it. And also another positive thing is that people will often show up to support in some way or another. And if they don't know your goals or where you want to go, then they basically can't help you because they don't know what they're going to help you with. So
No, exactly.
I feel often people sort of come out from the woodworks and, I know this person, or maybe you should read this book, or maybe have you thought about this? Like, people will help a lot if they really know where you want to go, which direction.
Yeah, I think that's a great part of it.
For most people, when they hear goals, they think about sort of maybe the more obvious or bigger goals, but there's also non-physical goals. And maybe you could share a few examples from your trip to the South Pole of non-physical goals that you set for the trip.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But I actually have a better example.
Yeah, sure.
Because the most important, it's kind of difficult to getting allowed to go to the South Pole. So most of my time between my Greenland trip and my South Pole trip, those 6 years, was about gaining the experience that I needed to be able to go there. And the most important expedition that I did in that time was a 3-week solo winter expedition from Alta in the northern Norway and ending up in Sweden in Abisko. And before that trip, I had been sick for a year with in Norwegian we call it kissing illness.
Ah, yeah, mononucleosis.
Yes. And I didn't know if I was fit enough to go there or if I had put down the work that I needed.
Yeah.
But then I had to set up some non-physical goals that were just to enjoy being outdoors again, because I haven't been able to do that for quite some time. And also just speaking to the people that I meet and take some nice pictures, just things like that. And what I experienced during those 3 weeks that I was alone was that my confidence that this was something that I wanted to do and felt like I was able to and good enough for, just increased during those weeks.
A turning point there, and a key trip.
Yes, and that's after that I finally dared to apply to go to the South Pole.
Yeah, maybe you can speak to this application process, because I think very few people are aware of what's required just to be able to actually execute an expedition like this.
Yeah, it's actually a quite long process. There is a logistics company that kind of governs the expedition part of Antarctica. So if you want to go there either on a group trip or alone or climbing mountains, you have to apply to this exact company. They are in control of everyone, and they are also responsible for everyone that are going into Antarctica. They want you to make it, and they are looking into the details of what you've done before, because they really want you to have a good time there. Therefore, you have to fill out forms with what you have used from before of equipment and which kind of expeditions you've been to before. And to go on a solo expedition, you also have to show that you've been on a solo experience before.
Is there any requirement in terms of number of weeks or how harsh the climate was in your previous expeditions that you're using to qualify yourself?
Yes, and also that you had to navigate, that you don't follow a set route or something. I've found it really funny because I have been skiing for all of my life, but most of the people that are going to Antarctica is non-Norwegians that are not that used to skiing maybe, so I had to put in the number of hours that I had been skiing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in
Number
my
of
life.
hours, yeah.
Yeah, that's really difficult to find out for me. I went to a high school for skiers and did a lot of cross-country skiing as a child and youth. So that was a bit funny, but yeah, you have to document all your former training and experience.
Is this process by paper, or is it online, or how does it work? Does it have, do you do interviews, or?
Yeah, papers, interviews, meetings, a lot of different things. You also need a reference, or you will be better off with a reference.
And is that a reference from someone who's already been at the South Pole, or?
Yeah, either that or a guiding company that I trust, or yeah, something like that. Most people that contact them that want to go to the South Pole are people that just has this goal, but they've never been skiing before. They haven't used any of the equipment. So normally that process takes up to 5 to 10 years to just gaining the experience and starting out the planning process.
And for how long did this process take for you?
For me, it was really important that I felt confident enough myself to actually apply. I didn't want to send before that, as most people do. So I just did everything up front of the application, and then when I sent it, I got it quite fast.
Quite fast? Is that weeks or months, or?
Yeah, after all the interviews and filling out there, I didn't get back that I needed more experience or do this and this and you can come back. Yeah. I just got okay, you're ready to go. Or,
you're ready to go, yeah. Wow. And it's quite expensive as well, pulling all of this together. I think in some cases, I mean, you know this better than I do, but I would imagine maybe 500,000, maybe $1 million, maybe more, to put together an expedition like that.
Yeah, only the fee that I paid the logistics company was $84,000.
Only for the application fee, yeah?
Yeah, or the logistics and the safety when you're first in Antarctica. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's quite expensive, but that's also because they have this responsibility for you. Yeah. And they have security teams and everything ready if something happens.
And do you interact with them during the expedition as well? Through satellite phone maybe, or?
Yes, every night at 7 I had to call in with my satellite phone and to give my position and how I was doing. And I just got the reports because they listened to my voice if there was something different today or...
oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Or just the words that I were using. So they wrote some reports on how they thought that I was doing. Yeah. That was really interesting looking into and comparing to my diary.
Yeah, talk to us about that.
I always tried to be as stable as possible to the logistics company because I wanted to show that I were in control of everything. But there was definitely some days that were harder than others, physically and also mentally. But I tried to give the impression that everything was stable because most of the time it was. And also I think it's important to be able to turn around in your head as well.
Did it feel comforting, or did it feel like a hassle to sort of check in with them? Was it sort of nice to have this little routine, like every night at 7 I'm going to have this call, or how did that feel?
From some former explorers, I heard it was quite a hassle because you have to be inside the tent by 7 or by the time you get to call in, and it takes time from your other routines, and maybe you can't start the stove because it's too loud when you're speaking in the phone. But I actually found it quite comforting because I really liked the feeling of being taken care of in a way, or that someone cared. And also I thought it was nice to have these routines because then I would never go too far. Even if it was great weather and everything was set up for a nice day, I always kept my routines, and I think that was an important part in me having control.
I can definitely imagine sort of feeling, I would say, being tempted to push a day further. Maybe I can do an extra hour, maybe 2 extra hours or something like that. And yeah, having those routines keep you in check.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of preparations, I mean, doing an expedition of this sort of magnitude naturally requires a lot of training, a lot of preparation, a lot of planning in all kinds of ways. Maybe you can sort of help us understand a little bit of what's actually involved in both the training and the preparations and the planning to pull something like this off.
Yeah. If we take the planning first, the most difficult part is actually the finances. And that's also really important because you can't start the other steps before you have that. I found it really difficult financing this, and it's a joke about Norwegian explorers that we all sell our apartments to go on adventure, because there has been some examples of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm quite young, so I don't have an apartment to sell, or I don't have that much. So I really needed to get the sponsors to be able to do this. So I put a lot of work down in getting them. And I got a great team of sponsors that also took a risk and dared to join this expedition, which I'm really grateful for. For the training part, it's important to go to the gym and lift weights and do cardio training, but I think the most important training for me was actually being on similar expeditions or smaller expeditions to simulate the bigger one, because then I got to know my equipment, and my routines were faster and safer, and my body was used to going long days, many days in a row, and mentally I was also preparing for being out for a long time. Both for the mental training and the physical, that was maybe the most important part.
Did you also variate the training across the year? Did you do like a certain kind of training during summer, maybe a different kind of training during winter or autumn? Or was there like a steady flow of activities that you were doing every year for those 6 years leading up to the expedition?
The first 3 years, I was a cross-country skier.
Mm-hmm.
So then I just exercised like a cross-country skier. So mostly cardio training. And then I did some smaller expeditions during that time as well. But the last 3 years was more specifically training and preparing. And then I took advantage of the snow in the winters. So I went on many expeditions lasting for a week, because I was also working shift. I had 1 week at work and 1 week off. And those weeks I went on expeditions either in Hardangervidda or Finnmark or even Svalbard. And during the summer I was also spending a lot of time outdoors in the nice weather, and did a lot of cardio training, a lot of running in the mountains, but also pulling car tires to simulate the pulke or the sled pulling.
Yeah.
So it was a bit different during the different times of the year. Autumn I often used for strength training, or especially this last fall before going to Antarctica, because I didn't want to get harmed or injured by running too much. So I just did quite light weight training to just keep as fit as I have built up during the summer.
A lot of people may not realize how much training is required and how much sort of relevant training is required to do something like this. And I can definitely understand that it would make a lot of sense to do a lot of expeditions that are as similar as possible, so you get familiar with all the equipment, all the routines and everything, and sort of get into that state of mind quicker. You can definitely see that. I've read somewhere that you also work together with your partners to enhance some of the equipment as well. Worked on a tent and on a special kind of sled. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit as well.
Yes. I didn't find a winter tent that I thought was good enough for this expedition, for a solo expedition, because I wanted it to be light, of course, and easy to put up, and also safe, and that it could handle the different kind of conditions. So I contacted Barents Outdoor, a Norwegian tent brand, and we developed a 1 to 2 person tent for longer winter expeditions. And yeah, it was quite fun to join the process of like first getting the drawings and then adjust them and trying out the prototype to actually using it on the expedition. And it also felt a lot safer that way. And I also did some adjustments for the sleds. The normal, or it's not normal to ski to the South Pole, but most of those who do it, they use a sled that are 2 meters and 10 centimeters long.
Okay.
So it's quite long and a bit heavy.
Yeah.
In some parts of the continent, there is quite difficult terrain. And then it's very difficult getting this long pole through everything and all the bumps and sastrugis.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, or instead I went for 2 smaller sleds, and I put skis under the first one to minimize the friction between the pulk and the snow. And that worked out fine, but 20 days into my expedition, actually Friday the 13th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One of the steel attachments bended, so the angle was wrong and I couldn't use them anymore. So then it was just dead weight on top of my sled.
Oh, so you have to take off the skis and put them on top. Oh, wow, okay. All kinds of things can happen, yeah.
Yeah.
I've read quite a few books about different expeditions, both to the North Pole and to the South Pole. And as far as I can tell, being an amateur just reading these books, it seems like a lot of different challenges and different issues can happen with the sleds.
Yes.
They sort of get bumped into or get some scratches, or maybe there's a hole in it and you need to fix it in some way. Did you experience any of that at all for you, or was the fact that you sort of thought about having to be more flexible up front and also worked on having less friction? Did that sort of solve some of those issues?
Maybe. I'm not sure, but there is, like, you can prepare for most of the things that can happen, but there is also a certain point where you can't prepare anymore. Right. And you also have to be ready for
the unthinkable, the random, the unexpected, That's
also an important thing, to like have the mindset to be able to meet everything with the open mind, and you can't really, like at home, if something happens with my equipment or my car or anything, my reaction is to call my father and just cry. No, not cry, but complain. But what I learned in Antarctica is that it doesn't help calling Dad and complain. I just have to try to figure it out myself first. And since it was a bit more hassle to use the satellite phone and everything, I did actually try first myself in Antarctica, and most of the time it went all fine. And that's a good lesson to have, I think, that I'm actually able to do more, or to do more things by myself than I first thought.
Yeah, for sure. Being self-sufficient in that way. And I think that can bring a lot of confidence, like inner confidence.
Yeah.
You know, whatever
in
happens,
the normal
I'm
life as
able
well.
to, in the normal life as well.
Yeah, I think those experiences make me a more confident person, and that the challenges at home, it's not that they don't feel big, but I also feel that I can actually do this.
I thought about this quite a lot, that in the different books or maybe movies or TV series that I've seen from these sort of expeditions, one of the most challenging things I feel is what we're talking about now, like the unexpected things that just happen. Maybe there's an issue with the zipper for your jacket, or there's something with the sled, or something with the skis. Things just break, and you need to fix it then and there with whatever little equipment you have, and be this sort of MacGyver kind of person and just figure it out. And I think that's being resourceful and being able to do that and sort of keep your head calm and everything, and just manage it with whatever you have. I think that's very it's very impressive. It seems a little bit daunting as well, because since you have no idea what's going to happen, like what's going to break, it's difficult to plan, like what kind of equipment would I need to have in case something breaks.
Yes.
And it's also difficult to, or at least in my mind, and I would be curious to hear your thoughts, but how to sort of train for that, because you can train your physical strength, you can plan the weight of the equipment and different things, but it's difficult to train or plan for being resourceful if something comes up. How do you think about that?
That's one of the most difficult things, is finding the balance between what do I need to bring 2 sets of, or what can I repair? When will I not be able to repair this? Should I bring this, or is it too heavy? So, for instance, I decided to just bring 1 pair of skis, so no extra skis or extra ski. And they were also a bit lighter and maybe more vulnerable than what's normally being used. But since I was an active cross-country skier and I have quite a good technique, I thought that the chance of me breaking a ski is quite low compared to others, and I will gain a lot not having to have this weight with me and having light skis instead of heavy skis. So you always have to find the balance between how much you gain and the risk of something getting harmed.
Seems like a good judgment call on the skis. I think a lot of these sort of decisions are really, really important for the success of this kind of expedition, and it's very often, I would say, not talked that much about, or doesn't get that much focus. How do you pack? How do you plan? What did you bring? What did you not bring, and why?
Yeah.
Like all these small decisions, all these small choices that makes a big difference in the end.
Yeah, and
especially
this also
when you're there.
Affect me very mentally, because I had planned for my sleds to weigh 100 kilos, and they ended up being 114, which is a lot to put in like the last couple of days before leaving. But there was some things that I was really insecure about. For instance, the solar panel, since I had never used one before, and I had a lot of electronics that I had to charge every day, my GPS and the satellite phone to call into the logistics company. And I was really insecure about how much effect the solar panel was giving, or how easy it was to break. And I know it's not easy to fix a solar panel, so I brought 3.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, and I just planned to bring 1, but I felt so insecure about it that I think it would actually been heavier mentally than the weight was bothering me in the bulk of having the option to use 3 or to have an extra.
And those things are quite individual as well. I mean, making those decisions and feeling what's right for you might be different for someone else, but you have to, I mean, you're there alone, so you need to really think about what do I need to be comfortable mentally and also feel prepared.
Yes, and I think it's really important when you go to such a place where you meet other explorers and people that has been working in Antarctica for ages. It's important to stay with your own choices, because it's so easy to get affected by another woman trying for the same route as me. She brought this and this, and I didn't bring that, and that makes me insecure, or that makes you think, and it might not be good for you always to...
Yeah, you don't want to mess with your own heads, taking in all that alternative input or alternative ways of doing things. Yeah.
And when you plan for such a thing, since we are so few that have done it, all of the former explorers come with tips. But I think it's important to choose like a few that you listen to, because everyone has different experiences and you can't really pick from everyone.
You can get overwhelmed by all these well-meaning tips and then sort of drown in that. Did you bring like some paracords or some like Leatherman, or what sort of, as a few pieces of equipment that you can sort of use to fix different things if something happens that you brought along that you felt was helpful?
Yeah, I brought a Leatherman or a multi-tool.
Yeah.
And a sewing kit.
Yeah.
I used a lot for just small repairs. And always if something just got a little mark or anything, I fixed it straight away because I didn't want it to get any worse. And I used...
Would that be typically in your trousers or in your jacket or like the little sewing? Yeah.
The clothings. And I had some thick woolen sock in my shoes. It's called katanker. It's a Sami traditional inner boot, almost, that's made out of wool. And it's really, really good because it keeps your feet warm. And also it's very soft, so you don't get blistered. But the wool is not really strong, so they get holes. And to be able to use them for the whole expedition, I had to repair them. After a month, I think I have to repair them every second day or something like that.
I thought a lot about this getting blisters. It's very easy to get blisters on a long trip like that. So Katanka seems to be a good way to solve that issue, yeah?
Yeah, I love them.
Speaking of planning and how to pack, it's usually sort of a game towards the lowest weight.
Yes.
Like, how can you cut any excess weight? And I remember reading in one of Børge Østland's books where they even cut the toothbrush in half to save weight. Do you have any sort of examples of these sort of things that you did in order to really cut down the weight?
Yeah, I also did that, of course, with the toothbrush and took out all the washing instructions inside the clothing.
On the clothing, yeah.
If there was a zipper I didn't need, I cut it off, things like that. So to me, it was also really important because I'm quite light and small myself. I'm only 152 centimeters. So the percentage of the pulk compared to my body weight is quite big.
Yeah.
I need the same kind of equipment that a 2-meter man would need.
Yeah.
It's a lot heavier to me to pull that weight, so I was really into cutting all that I could from the pulk.
The bigger the accomplishments, I mean, if you think about it in that perspective, because
Thank you.
You're pulling the same weight as somebody who's like 2 meters.
Another thing that I did was that I took all the food out of the original packages and put it into lighter plastic bags.
Okay.
And I knotted it like right into like almost vacuum packed. And then I cut off the excess plastic above the knot. So just things like that. And I think I saved about 2 kilos by doing that.
Wow.
Changing the...
That's quite substantial.
Yes, and you don't think about it at first because you think it's a plastic.
Yeah, how much can it weigh?
Yeah.
I think that sort of ingenuity or creativity and sort of how can I reduce weight, what can I do that's non-obvious to make this lighter? Because after all, I'm going to pull this weight for 50, 60 days. So, so any gram would counts.
Yes. Posted it on my social media and I got some people thought it was ridiculous and others actually gave me tips.
Yeah.
So for instance, I braided my hair so I didn't need to bring a hairbrush. And saved, I don't know, 50 grams.
Yeah.
By doing that. And also I didn't need to do anything with my hair. So it just stayed the same for the whole expedition and I saved time.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Yeah. I think all those tips are, incredibly fascinating and something that most people won't think about unless you're in a situation like this.
Yeah, it is. I think it's also fun to engage my followers. They feel they've been a part of the expedition and they've actually given me a lot of good tips.
Transitioning into when you're actually on the trip, how does a typical day look like for you? What sort of activities do you do? How do you sort of structure it? We spoke a little bit about routines and I think routines are quite important.
Yes.
What was your routines and how did you structure a typical day?
I woke up quite early, 5 o'clock, because I wanted to be between the time zone of the logistics company that used the Chilean time zone and the Norwegian, so I could send a message to my parents every night so they knew I was safe inside my tent. And it was in the morning that I had the most energy, so I used a bit of time writing in my diary and having an extra cup of coffee and used some time getting out of the tent after my breakfast. And then I skied for most of the time 9 hours or 9 legs by 1 hour and then 5 to 10 minutes breaks where I ate and drank a bit. And after those 9 legs, I put up my tent again, and I had to melt a lot of snow to get water to make my dinner and to drink. Most of the time after calling in and giving my position, I was just so tired that I went straight to bed. It was in the morning I did other things like repairing my equipment or writing in the diary or reading or things like that.
Did you sort of bring any music or maybe audiobooks or maybe podcasts or some entertainment, let's call it that?
Yeah, a lot. But what I discovered was inside the tent, I found it really comforting to have an audiobook or podcasts. And in the start, I was distracting myself from what I was doing with listening to podcasts. But from maybe day 14 or so, I just found it very distracting with the audiobooks, and I was more comfortable being in silence, to be honest, and just in my own head and actually getting time enough to get deep into my thoughts and reflections. And as a child, I was daydreaming a lot and thinking a lot about what life was going to look like and what I wanted to do in my dreams and things like that. But the last couple of years, I haven't had no time to do that because I always, if I'm bored, I take up my phone and scroll on social media, or there is messages to answer or things like that. But on the expedition, it was no distractions, and I found it really nice going back to this slow kind of living and just having time to actually think.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think when I've read books about by other explorers, one of the things that I appreciate the most is reading their reflections. I feel it's very pure and authentic, and as you say, the sort of fast-paced life that we have now with all the notifications and all the distractions and the TVs and the smartphones and the whatnot, it leaves very little room for most of us to just sit and think and really figure out, like, what are my opinion or what do I think about different things, rather than just getting all this input.
Yes, and I think we are scared also to be bored and to get thoughts that you maybe don't want to have, because on an expedition like this, you just have to take in what thoughts that comes to your head, and it can be good or bad. And at home, if you start to get into a negative way of thinking, you will distract yourself because you don't want to be there. But on an expedition, you actually just have to handle it, and I think it's good to be in that situation as well.
Absolutely. And I feel that there's a lot of these like bigger thoughts, like the philosophical thoughts, that you get more time to sort of really think through, rather than just thinking about it for like 5 minutes or something. You can sort of have this long chain of thoughts that you can sort of stay with that and really have the time to mull over it and reflect.
Yes. At home, I care so much about, or not so much, but about how my clothings are looking like, which color they are, which brand. But on an expedition, the only thing that counts is that you're warm and that the jacket will last for the whole expedition. Yeah. And it's a paradox to get home again and then caring about which color it is, or I think it's really funny. Or you get to reflect over those kind of stupid things that we care about at home.
Yeah, what we care about and what we focus on and what we spend time on and complain about.
Yes.
I would imagine that during the trip there would be certain things that went better than you expected, and for sure some challenges that arose that maybe you weren't expecting.
I was really prepared that it was going to be very hard mentally, and sometimes it was, but since I had prepared that much for it, I think it went better, and I had a great time most of the time, and that I was able to slow down and just take one step at a time, and I didn't get stressed over things, or that I actually managed to stay in focus and take one thing at a time. I think that went better than I thought. And physically it was harder, and there was a lot of things happening that I didn't expect. For instance, from day 7 to day 20, it was snowing. And besides from being the largest glacier in the world, Antarctica is also the largest and driest desert that we have. So in a normal year, there will be less snow or rain in Antarctica than in Sahara. So I didn't expect it to snow like fresh snow. But there was 2 weeks of snowing and snowing and snowing, and there was also very little winds during those weeks, so the snow never set. Just there was just this half a meter of fresh snow that I had to walk in, and since it's so dry, the snow is also very, very dry, so it feels almost like walking in sand.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And at that time, it was quite early in my expedition, and my pulks were very heavy, and I wasn't even near the progression that I needed to have to get to the pole in 50 days or 55 or 60 days. And it started, I got really frustrated because the number of kilometers that I had to walk every day to get there just increased and increased every time I got inside the tent. And that was really hard to handle because I was so tired every evening, and I'd skied all that I could, but it wasn't good enough, and I didn't know when the weather or conditions were going to turn. So that was a quite hard time. But after 20 days, I think at day 20, I had a really down.
Mm-hmm.
And that was maybe when I was most insecure if I was going to make it. And I really thought for some days there that it was never going to
work out.
Yeah. Very soon after, Antarctica just changed completely from being flat and soft, a bit uphilly, but with this duvet of snow, to being sharp and rough, and like there was edges of these sastrugis. Conditions were also harder. It wasn't good glide, but it was better than walking in fresh snow. So then I was able to go twice the distance that I had done before. But it was also a more scary part of the continent because the winds were stronger and it was colder, and these sastrugis were hard, so my pulks were tipping over, and I fell into them sometimes when it was white out and I didn't see the difference between the snow and the sky. There was a challenging thing with everything, so when I got away from the fresh snow, it was easier to walk, but also harder for the body because I was going up and down on these hard sastrugis and back and forth to the pulk that was tipping over. So there was also something, always something.
I'm really curious about the first 20 days that you described, how you sort of sorted your thoughts in your mind when you're feeling like every day I'm supposed to go a certain distance, and today I was only able to go, let's say, half the distance, and the next day it's the same, and the next day it's the same. I can imagine that being quite challenging mentally. How was your inner dialogue or your inner, your self-talk?
Yeah, back to what we talked about with goal setting. It's very important to have these smaller goals as well. So I had degrees. I walked from 89 degrees to 80 or 79 degrees to 90. And those were 110 kilometers each. So I had those as goals as well, and every day were a goal. So to just divide the expedition into different phases, I think it's really important, because when you stand at the start and it's more than 1,000 kilometers to the goal, you can't really think of just that. You have to take one day at a time, and sometimes even 1 hour at a time. And I was really good on doing that from the start, because I had worked on my mindset from before. That worked to a certain point on day 20, where I reached the breaking point of thinking that I wasn't going to make it. But before that, I was always thinking that the conditions can turn, and if I'm just doing my best every day, that's good enough.
Mm.
So most of the time I had that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, that worked. 14 days in snowy weather until I reached the breaking point. Luckily, it didn't last very long before the conditions got better after that.
Yeah, quite a rough start.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
And I'm really wondering if the snowy weather had lasted for one more week, what I had felt like.
Yeah.
If that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to sort of all these random things that can happen.
Yeah.
We don't know how the conditions going to be, and maybe if you did it in a different year, there would be no snow at all, or maybe a different year there would be another week of it. Who knows?
Yes, and it's different for everyone that's doing it. We are all on our own expeditions. There were also some other explorers that were trying for the same route as me. I think we were 6 different solo expeditions, or 5 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of questions if I compared myself to the others, but I think there's no point in doing that. When you're on a 54-day-long expedition, you can't compete with anyone, because we all have different challenges, and some are struggling with the weight in the pulk, and others are struggling with something in their bodies or something mentally. So you just have to focus on yourself and take one day at a time.
Yeah. And speaking of sort of unexpected things that happen, towards the end of your expedition, I seem to recall that you were facing some cold asthma.
Yes.
And also polar thighs.
Yes.
Could you speak to that?
Yeah, the polar thighs came quite early. It's quite common in the polar areas. It's kind of frostbites that you get on your thighs, or for me it was the bum. And no one really knows why they appear, but they start as like blue or reddish marks, and then they can develop into open and infected wounds. And I even know some that had to have a skin transplantation.
Oh, really?
After having polar thighs. The skin can be ruined forever. I didn't feel that it was that cold, and I was maybe not too careful going to the toilet outside. Mm-hmm. And then during Christmas, I started to feel a bit of pain on my bum when I was sitting down. And of course, I can't look myself on my bum, so I haven't seen anything uncommon. So I took a picture, and then I saw this big blue mark, and only 2 days later, the skin was broken open, and it was red, and it didn't look good at all. So I contacted doctors. The logistic company have quite good doctors in Antarctica that have a lot of experience with polar thighs. So they decided to put me on antibiotics straight away, and I kept the routines more strictly. Yeah. So I wore a down pant and more layers of wool, and I put my sleds in front of the wind and put on my big down jacket when I was going to the toilet outside, and tried to always go to the toilet inside the front part of the tent before going out every day, so that I didn't need to go that much. And then it luckily didn't become any worse, but I know a few expeditions that had been ruined because of the polar thighs. Since it came quite in the middle of my expedition, I had 1 month left. Yeah. I also found it really hard that it came that early on, because it was before the coldest and most windy part. So I didn't know how bad they could be. Luckily, they just stayed stable for the rest of the expedition.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
When this happens and you get to talk to the doctor and you get some advice on what things to do, and maybe some balms or maybe some things to treat it with, did that sort of comfort you to sort of stay in the same mindset and continue? Or did it contribute to sort of an extra burden or stressor mentally that, okay, now I have this condition or this thing, and also when you're on antibiotics, maybe that could affect your, let's call it, performance when you are skiing and pulling the sleds?
Being comforted by the doctors, I think since they are very used to working with expeditions, they know which language to use and how to comfort me. So when I first discovered them, this is way too early and these are way too big, so I'm fucked, basically.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, you're gonna make it and we're gonna figure this out together and use these creams and things that we gave you up front, and also put me on antibiotics, and was really calm but also concerned, that I found really comforting. But I also got affected from the antibiotics, I think, because there was some day that I was feeling a bit of sickness and I was a bit like dizzy when I was out walking. In the same period of time, there was a Norwegian guy called AK Tagland that was going for the speed record to the South Pole. So he tried to ski the 130 kilometers from the coast to the pole in around 20 days. I had some contact with him and we had the same expedition manager at home. What happened to him was that he passed out during a day of skiing. So he was passing out in the snow, and he just woke up seeing his skis, and I think he was wondering where he was. Luckily, he managed to put up the tent and call in to the station, and he was evacuated. And that could have gone much worse. When that happened, it was the same period that I was on antibiotics and have been feeling a bit dizzy myself. I really got affected by his story because I didn't know where my border was.
Yeah.
Where is my breaking point? And okay, this can happen to me as well, and I'm also alone.
Yeah.
And what if I don't wake up? How long? Yeah, I was really thinking in those
terms, yeah.
Yes. Therefore, it also was really important for me to just keep the routines and don't go any further than my plan.
Yeah. It's quite scary to get that sort of story while you're on a very similar expedition at the same time.
But we had very different margins as well. So he was skiing like 50 and 60 kilometers every day, and he had to, because he had little food in his sleds and he had this record to beat. It was 2 different games, but at the same time we were at the same place all by ourselves, skiing in the most isolated and windy and coldest continent on earth. So you get those kind of thoughts.
Well, it's definitely a stark reminder of the potential dangers that are out there.
Yes.
And what could potentially happen.
Yes, but it was also like a good reminder. And it was also nice to see that the security team actually picked him up so fast, and that everything actually worked really fine.
Yeah, I love how you think about this, because it sort of, I guess, demonstrates, at least to me, how you're able to pull out what's positive from that experience and then sort of focus on that, because there's a lot of negative in that story, but you can focus on that, or you can focus on the positive things. Okay, the security is really good. It's comforting to know that if something happens, they can sort of evacuate someone very quickly. I mean, that's a better way to think about it. Yeah,
and I think you have to be thinking in those terms when you're on an expedition like that. There's no choice, to be honest.
What about this cold asthma?
Yes.
When did that occur, and how did that affect you, and what did you do when that happened?
When I had around 150 kilometers left to the pole, I was through the hardest terrain, and it started flattening out and became soft again, and actually quite nice conditions. But what I didn't think about was that I also was far into the inland of Antarctica, and also at the altitude of 2,800 meters. And because of the lower pressures around the pole, it can be compared to being on 4,000 to 4,500 meters in Europe. And to pull a sled on that altitude is heavy, and it really affected me, the thin and cold air. The winter in Antarctica almost started again. so it was getting colder and colder every day. I started feeling pain in my lungs, and I really struggled to breathe. I had to take a lot of breaks, and I was skiing really, really slow. And of course, it was hard physically, but my pulks were also light, and I didn't need to save energy for anything more because I only had a few days left or a week left. So I wasn't too concerned about the physical part, but it was also really mentally heavy to go that slow. And I first thought that this was going to be an easy part of my expedition since my pulk was easy and
lighter and
and the terrain was better. So I thought that I was going to go fast and long days and just the last part before goal, but it became everything other than that. So that was actually mostly mentally hard because I didn't have the progression that I wanted to have.
And it clashes with your expectations.
Yes. Yeah. And also my body was really ready to be done.
Yeah.
And I think it's normal that your body resigns a bit before your head as well, before you're actually there.
Yeah.
And it's also a lot of examples of expeditions that has gone wrong in the last couple of days, or even at expedition or normal hikes in the mountains here at home. You think that you're finished before you are in the car or inside the hut, and that's a really difficult or really dangerous path to go into, thinking that you're finished before you're actually there. Just keep the focus and the routines until you're actually at the pole.
What sort of medications or what sort of remedies could you do to the actual cold asthma? Is there some what is called ventilator or something like that you use?
Yes, I had some of that with me, so I used that, and I could also use some tablets. But what we didn't know if I had a lung infection, because I had pain as well. And if I used those tablets, my immune system would work worse. So they didn't risk to put me on those tablets because they didn't know if it was actually asthma or a lung infection. And since I were out there alone, they wasn't able to check it. So I was just on the ventilators, and I also used a mask that was heating up the air a bit before I breathed it into my lungs. That also helped. But the most important thing was just to slow down, to be honest. During these days when I was really, really tired, I was wearing this mask, and it's kind of nasty and wet to wear it because it's a lot of moist being produced inside it. And one of the days I felt it was a bit more wet than usual. And then when I took it off, it just ran blood into the snow. I just saw the blood in the snow, and my nose had started bleeding. And I think that was just the last sign from my body that I was really tired and needed a break or needed to slow things down.
Just thinking about all the strains that you put your body through during such an expedition for so many days, it's no wonder that the body starts showing signs of, the consequences of that towards the end. But good thing that it worked out in the end. 54 days, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, 54 days.
It ended up being 54. I had planned for 50 and packed for 52. But I had some extra dinners so I could stretch out to 55. So it was right on the limit.
Wow. What would you say is the most important skill for someone to develop to become or for an adventurer like yourself, and why?
I think first of all, it's actually committing and daring to dream and daring to actually go. I think that's where most of us fall off. We all have a lot of dreams, but to actually do them, I think many get stopped from the studies or work or commitments at home. But when you first decide to go on your first adventure and actually set a date and book those flights or anything, I think it's easier to do it one more time the next time. So my best tips is to do it. Just go on your first adventure, and then the next one will be easier to plan. And when you're out there, I think it's important to have this mindset that you just have to meet every challenge. You can't just run over it or anything. You have to take one step at a time, and you have to figure out things. And if you're by yourself, you have to figure it out by yourself. You can't just give up. I think that's one of the most important skills when you're actually on the expedition. You can be as fit or ready as you want, but if you don't have the right mindset, I think it's more difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, mindset is very, very important. And speaking of mindset, at least for me, nature soothes me quite a lot, and I would be curious for someone who spent so much time in nature, such as yourself. What would you say is sort of the impact of nature on you as a person, and what it means to you, both in terms of your day-to-day life, but also on your expeditions?
It's really important to me. It's like a free zone where I can be myself, and time or the clock doesn't affect my days or what I'm doing. But also a place where I can take on some challenges and feel accomplishment, but also just the beauty of nature. I feel it affects me a lot, and it's kind of a paradox, loving nature that much, but also traveling to the other side of the world to go into an untouched area, because all of us at least shouldn't do it. But I think when you see these untouched areas and how beautiful it is and how vulnerable it is, I think you get another perspective of things as well.
You kind of get a sense of you want to protect the precious nature, because you see how it can be at its best maybe when it's unspoiled.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to take care of the places that are still like that, and when you see places at home that are untouched or there's not too many that has been there, you kind of not want to post it on Instagram or
then everyone will go,
yeah. After doing something like this, I think it's a bit difficult posting my Antarctic adventure, because I know that it makes more people want to go there, because I also was inspired by others.
Yeah.
But I also think like that with the places in my own home area, that for sure I want to share most of the places with more people. But when I'm finding places that are a bit more untouched, I might want to keep them for myself.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a tough balance to strike.
Yeah, and especially since it's my work as well, or I'm trying to make a living out of inspiring others. It's really difficult finding the balance, as you say.
I thought a little bit about this, like when you were on expeditions such as to Greenland, and you mentioned in northern Norway, in Sweden and Finland, Svalbard, and to the South Pole. Some of the non-physical goals, enjoying the trip, as we spoke about, taking nice photos. How do you sort of go about taking those photos? Because if you're in a more extreme environment, I would imagine that it's more strain to sort of, you put down the skis, put down all the equipment, find the camera, take the picture. You can't do it all the time. You have to sort of, I guess, pick the right moments. What kind of equipment do you have? How do you think about it? Like, how often do you take a picture? How does it play into your routine?
It takes a lot of focus, to be honest. And I was also filming for a TV documentary.
Oh, really?
That is being clipped, or it's being clipped now. I had to, of course, speak a lot to the camera I think the storytelling is the most important part.
Yeah.
That shows, I think the mental journey is as exciting as the physical one. But I also had to take a lot of frames outside, so I had to put up my camera, and then I had to walk in a circle or a half circle to not make any marks in the snow, because it should look like I was going there for the first time. So it took a lot of focus and time, and I think if I didn't take any picture or film, I would go faster. But it has a lot of value to me to have these photos and the film and to be able to tell the story through talks and through the movie.
Yeah, for sure. I feel also a little bit ambivalent to that as well, because it's wonderful to take the photos and have the memories, and once you look at them and you can share it, you can more easily tell the story and communicate it to others, whether it's family or I would say like a bigger public, a wider audience. But it's also great to sort of pull out the memory from your head through looking at an image, and sort of sparks that.
Absolutely.
But on the other side, it takes you a little bit away from the experience itself, because you're in that moment, you're enjoying it, you're seeing the nature, you're sort of in that feeling, and then you step out of that to take the photo and think about, like, how is this framing going to look like? Is this a better shot? Should I be from this angle? And then you put down the camera and then you go back. So sort of stepping in and out of that, I guess, reality or that moment that you are in, that's also can be a little bit negative. So it's both positive and negative at the same time. So it's a little bit...
it becomes a bit fake in a way. Yeah. At the very end of my expedition, I was just starting to cry when I was skiing, and I didn't know why at first, but I just had this feeling, and I think I figured out that it was because now this expedition was only mine and my impression of it, and I have been skiing for 50 days without speaking to or too much to anyone else, and it was just my experience, and it was a real experience. It wasn't through a screen or anything like that. And I knew that at the point when I got there or got home, I would also be affected by everyone else's impression of my expedition.
Yeah.
And others would have impressions about it and tell me how it was almost.
Yeah.
And I found that really difficult at the end of the expedition, like letting go of it in a way, or that it was going to be colored by others' impressions of it.
Not just colored, but maybe tainted a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can really understand that.
And that's a bit of the same with sharing pictures, because then people feel like they know how it was, or that I have the right impression, but I can also have total other impression, or when I tell it in this way enough times, or people tell me enough times, I will change my impression of it, and that's hard to realize sometimes.
Yeah, it's difficult to wrap your head around these sort of things. I want to sort of take us a little bit back to your drive and motivation. If you were to sort of summarize what drives you and what motivates you, how would you go about explaining that?
First of all, I really love being outdoors and skiing and using my body and being in the nature, and have this silent place with this slow kind of living where you have time to reflect and think. But there's also a reason why I don't just travel to a hut and stay there for a long time. And that's because I want to take on these challenges and feel the accomplishment on the other side. To show myself what I'm capable of doing is just the best feeling ever, and I think it plays a very big role in the person I've become, and how I feel about myself and how I react with others.
That feeling of accomplishment in these sort of pursuits, it really translates when people read about it or hear about it in different ways, maybe come to your talk or in other forms. I think can be incredibly inspiring for a lot of people.
And you can also draw parallels to very many other perspectives of life.
Yeah. It transfers quite well. And I think there's something about, I want to try to get this right. If you do an expedition like this, or maybe you climb to a mountain, it's very challenging and difficult, but it's also there's something very beautiful about the simplicity of it. Because either you reach the top of the mountain or you didn't. And it's very clear what to do. I mean, in your normal life, in most people's jobs, the end goal can be quite complex. and it depends on a lot of different people coming together to make something happen. And of course, there are a lot of people supporting someone like yourself doing an expedition, but the actual doing of it, and of course the training and the planning and everything, is something that you do, and you prove to yourself that I'm capable of doing this. But in most other areas of life, there's so many different people and factors, and also the goal is a little bit muddy very often.
Yeah.
It's not as simple. So the distinction I want to make is between simple and easy. It's very difficult to do it, but it's simple in terms of the thinking about it.
Yes.
Like the goal in itself is simple, but very difficult.
Yeah, I've actually thought a lot about that. And I feel that's also something that I take with me from this experience, is the goal felt very overwhelming when I was standing at the start line. But the journey towards it was really clear. It was just to take one step at a time and 1 kilometer. But at home, you can have a goal that is as overwhelming, but the path isn't that clear.
Yeah.
But you still have to do the same. You still have to take one step at a time. You can't do many things at the same time. And yeah, to just draw the parallel between those has been an important lesson to me, I think.
I get this association as well in terms of stress. Like a lot of people in today's society feel a lot of stress more than we did, like say 100 years ago or 2,000 years ago or several thousand years ago. And I've been wondering whether that, in some part at least, relates to the difficulty of the path. Because in the past we used to do very hard things, but the path was very clear.
Yes.
And such as in your pursuit, the path is quite clear, although it's very difficult. So I feel that as humans, maybe we get quite overwhelmed, but when we're not just doing hard things, but it's difficult to see sort of what's the clear path, what's the next step, what's the next 10 steps.
Yes.
If that's difficult or muddy or cloudy, then it can stress us out.
Yes, and at home you feel that you always can do something. You can always answer that mail or send that application or things like that. But on the expedition, life is, besides from being a tough challenge, is also really simple and easy, because you just have to walk your kilometers and you have to melt your snow and make your dinner. And if you just keep the routines, you're good. And you can't really do anything more. So you actually give yourself the opportunity to rest, or you allow yourself to feel that, okay, I'm done for today and tomorrow is a new day. But at home, you always feel that you could have done something more. And I think that stresses you out.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's quite a tough feeling, especially for someone who's quite conscientious. It's quite can be quite taxing mentally to think that, there's always like this little thing I could do, and then you do that little thing, and then you think, maybe there's another thing, and it never ends, right? It never ends. So modern life has a lot of that, and also it relates. I guess it reminds me of like this distinction between what's urgent and what's important. When the path is very clear, you do what's important. Always do what's important. But in our daily lives with, regular jobs and these sort of things, you can spend quite a lot of time and effort on things that are urgent but not necessarily important.
Yes.
So there's a notification, there's an email, there's something to be sent and done. It doesn't really matter, but it seems very urgent, so I'm going to do it. So sort of you tend to waste a lot of time and effort on that, and then you don't have the progress that you're expecting because it's not really important. So then you get into this stressing cycle. You spend a lot of time and effort doing urgent things, but non-important things.
Yes. And I've also heard that the more important something feels to you, the more you're willing to procrastinate it and take the more urgent thing first, because you want to have to sit down and be in the right state of mind and have enough time. And then you just do these stupid things first because it's more easy and feels less important. So you just start on those
first.
Yeah, and and then you just procrastinate what's really important to you.
Absolutely.
And you get even more stressed.
Absolutely. It's like a stress spiral.
Yes.
I want to talk also with you a little bit about who inspires you. There's been a lot of, I would say, fascinating adventurers, especially from Norway, actually, that have done incredible things in the past. But for you personally, who have inspired you the most, and why do you think that is?
A lot of people think that I'm inspired by our national heroes, Amundsen and Nansen, and for sure they are incredible people, or were. But I've never been tempted by the heroic acts and the pain that they felt and everything. When you read those books, it just seemed like they didn't have a good time at all.
Yeah.
But the younger explorers, or in our time with Liv Arnesen and Cecilie Skog, they were always smiling when they were in these tough areas, and they had eyes on their eyebrows and in their hair, but they also had a good time. And I thought that looked a lot more tempting. So those have definitely inspired me. And also just people doing completely other things. For instance, Erika Fatland, which is a travel author. And I always read her books, and I think she's really tough, and that she dares to do all the things she dares to do. It's really inspiring. But I'm doing other things, but just finding an inspiration in people that are doing different things than me.
Speaking for myself, I can find inspiration in so many different areas. It's just about, I guess, at least for me, it's about inspirational mindsets and ways of thinking, and people pushing themselves to see what they're made of in different capacities.
Yes. I really like meeting people that are really passionate about what they do. I find that really inspiring.
It's very important to the human connection to feel that, and that energy sort of transmits in some way from one person to the next.
Yes.
Yeah, we can sort of feed off each other's energy and inspire each other. And I think there's, especially in the last decades, there's so much polarizing thinking and too little of, I would say, focusing on great accomplishments, great efforts, and supporting various people in the community. When I say community, I mean sort of on the worldwide stage.
Yes.
There seems to be too little of that, too little compassion and love and support for people doing amazing things, whether it's in research or in adventure or in sports or arts or whatever it might be.
Yes. But also I think it's difference between personal accomplishment and what everyone else thinks. After coming home from this South Pole expedition, it has been a lot of focus on the world record, because I became the youngest to ever complete this journey. And I found that a bit hard at first, because for me, it doesn't count at all. It's not that makes the trip meaningful.
Yeah.
I'm more about the experience and everything I learned during the trip, and that's what I'm sitting with now. But everyone else looks at it as a world record, or not everyone else, but someone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot different to how I'm seeing it.
As I think you spoke to a little bit earlier, sort of trying to hold on to what it means to you.
Yes.
What's your personal takeaway from this, and sort of keep that close to heart and pristine, rather than being affected what other people may think or shine a light on?
Yeah.
We spoke a little bit about sort of the reflections and the big thoughts when you're on such a trip. You have a lot of time to think about and sort out your mind. So I would be curious to know at this stage, because this might change, how would you describe your philosophy on life?
I think it changes all the time. And also, when I was out there, I had some thoughts that I thought I was gonna hold on to. But it wasn't long before I started to get back to the normal, or how I was interacting before the expedition. For instance, I thought I was going to be less on my phone and on social media because I didn't miss it at all when I was out there. But I can't. When I'm home, I'm just being distracted and there's notifications and I don't even know why I'm doing it.
Yeah. Old routines, old habits.
Yeah, bad habits.
They have a way of like pulling you back in, so to speak.
Yeah. For me, it's important to get that reminder from time to time and to go out on smaller adventures, smaller hikes, and be a bit without connection and without all luxury with the showers and good food and everything. To just get a reminder of what's really important to me.
Yeah. Another thing that I have been wanting to ask you is, you've had this big goal for 6 years. You work towards it every day. Then you get to do the actual expedition. You complete it. You reach like the biggest goal you've set for yourself so far in your life, which, quite frankly, not a lot of people get to have that experience. And then what you feel afterwards, how does that feel once the dust settles, so to speak?
It's a bit strange because I have thought of the South Pole every day the last 6 years, and to just be finished. The project is strange to not have this goal in front of me anymore. At the same time, I'm really happy that it turned out all good. I'm wondering what I have thought if I had to be evacuated or didn't reach my goal. It feels less meaningful doing training and life in general. Things that I do feels less meaningful than it did when it was because of the goal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has taken a lot of focus the last couple of years. So every exercise that I did or every hike or anything was always with the South Pole in the back of my head.
Yeah.
So now I'm actually really looking forward to get some experiences because of the experience itself and not because that I'm going to the South Pole.
Yeah.
So there's a
plus and minuses,
yes.
A little bit of a relief and also a little bit of a lack of sense of meaning.
Yeah,
a
bit of
time.
emptiness. I'm still at the high of coming home and getting all the media and congratulations and everything like that, and feeling accomplished. But when things settles more, I think maybe I will feel more emptiness and the lack of having this goal. But I don't know. I also have some plans because I put my education on hold to be able to do this. So now I'm going to university next autumn. So I have some plans, and I think that's important. And if I had started to work and was going back to work, I think it would be a bit different than it is now that I'm actually starting on a new chapter in life.
New chapter, a new adventure.
Yeah.
What are you planning on studying?
I've applied to Trondheim, to geology.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hope I will get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
May I ask, why did you pick that in particular?
I think it's really interesting, and I hope to be able to choose the path to go more into the glacier kind of stuff. And I know there's an exchange program to Svalbard and to Arctic geology, which I think is really exciting and something that I want to work with and that I can combine with being in these Arctic polar regions. And maybe being there in a more, like in a bigger sense than just for an expedition, but maybe being a scientist or... that would be nice.
In a completely different capacity.
Yeah, exploring in another way.
Yeah.
I feel like I have been exploring just things about myself and exploring Antarctica for the first time for me, but it has already been explored, and I think the English term polar explorer is not very suitable for what I am. I think the Norwegian word polfarer is a lot better. I don't think that I can use this polar explorer term because we are not exploring anymore. But if I were to go there as a scientist doing those kind of things, I think it would be more fitable and give even more meaning to the expedition.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way of thinking about it. Now you've been to Greenland, you've been to the South Pole. What about the North Pole? Is that on the menu?
No, actually not. For me, I think it's important to say as well, it's not about the checklist or anything like that. It's more about doing something that gives meaning to me and that I think is a lot of fun and challenge me in other new ways.
Yeah.
So going to the South Pole and Antarctica was because I wanted to go to this isolated area and feel on my body how it is to be that far away from everyone and everything. To be able to be in my own thoughts in this white desert for that amount of time. It's not about crossing it off a list or those kind of things. So I will definitely go on more adventures, but maybe something with a backpack next time, or not that clear goal, but just being outside, maybe combining it with the outdoor life that I have from my childhood with hunting and fishing. I would want to try different kind of expeditions.
Yeah.
Not particularly go to the South Pole and North Pole and Everest and
tasting different aspects of life rather than being on this adventure route, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense. And that's one of the things I was quite curious about. I think also for myself, I'm very keen on tasting and feeling and experiencing a multitude of different things rather than just within one area. We have most likely a quite limited time on this planet, and experiencing as much as possible and so much variety as possible really triggers me, at least. So it was interesting to hear how you felt about it.
Yeah, me too. I want to see different things and experience different things, but also take on different kind of challenges to get this feeling of accomplishment.
Well, Karen, it's been a pleasure. How can people reach out to you online? Where can they find you? Where can they learn more?
On social media, I'm called Friluftsjenta, or you can just search Karen Kyllesø, then you'll find me. And I share all of my adventures there.
You also have this, or you're part of this account. Maybe you could speak to that as well. Polarjenter.
Yeah, Polarjenter or Polar Girls. We are 4 girls running it, and it's most of all a community where we try to connect more, especially female explorers, but it's open for everyone. But we have experienced that there wasn't that many girls in this field, but there is a lot of girls that are enjoying the outdoor life and want to go a bit more extreme. So we try to, first of all, inspire more people to take that step to the next level, but also facilitating for it. We have this group where you can find other girls to go with, or you can ask about equipment. Mostly on Facebook and Instagram, we are trying to have this community.
All right. So at the end, I want to say I'm quite excited about this documentary that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And to see that when that comes out, I was not aware of that. So quite excited for that. And also, of course, to read your book when that comes out.
Thank you.
Do you know, or is it possible to share? Is it in 2025 or maybe 26? Or
Yes, the book will hopefully come out in September.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, and the documentary I'm not too sure about. We haven't sold it to any distributor, but hopefully by the end of 2025, start of 2026.
All right.
Yes.
Look forward to it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really nice to be here.
If you appreciated that, then click here for more content like this. Go on, click it. And don't forget to subscribe. Be well.